Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome once again to your live Q&A Investment Dominator call. And I'm Warren Davis, and we're definitely glad to be here with you on this beautiful Monday. I believe it's June 10th, 2019. So, welcome everybody. And again, as usual, I'd like to do a quick sound check, make sure that you all can hear me and see me okay. According to my indicators, you can see me, and I'm showing that my voice is coming through. Can everybody see my Investment Dominator screen? Anybody? Yes, thank you, Eileen. I appreciate that. Excellent. Okay, we're going to get started here. There's a few of you on the call. There's several of you on call, and I expect more to be joining us, hopefully, unless they are being poised for that big game tonight between the Golden State Warriors and the Toronto Raptors. I don't know if we have any fans on the call with us tonight, but that big game is happening. So, in any case, um, we will be taking your questions today. And those of you that may be new with us, let's see, make sure that you know how to put in your questions. You see my send your questions box, and right here over to the right, there's a questions area. Don't worry too much about raising your hand, because I'll usually just see the question. Um, this is uh, the box that you put your questions in, and when you hit send, the questions will appear before me. And again, when you do send in your questions, it's really good if you can just put a little question mark or the word question before the actual question and the category. So if you're talking about offers, you can do question mark and offers and then state the question. That kind of helps me to understand what's coming through, and it's not interpreting what you're saying as a statement, but it's actual question. So I appreciate if you would do that, and that'll help me out a little bit. Okay, so getting right into, I'm gonna see if there's anything that I need to cover with you. No, I appreciate you all being understanding last week. We're back off vacation and back into our work day. And so it has been a busy Monday, but it's been a good Monday. And I have some things to share with you that have taken place since we were on vacation last week, and hope that it will encourage you to continue on in this business. This business is really, really a great business. And the CRM that we're using, which is a customer relationship management tool in the Investment Dominator, is, in my opinion, second to none when it comes to handling our land business. So we certainly hope that you all are getting the most out of using the Investment Dominator. We're going to get to those questions that are coming in. I'm first going to take and handle some questions that we had from our last class, and even one that I wanted to demonstrate for you here. You can see my Investment Dominator screen. If you remember, I did a section for exactly how to put in tasks that you might want to assign either to yourself or to someone else. And I wanted to log on here and show you when you have a task. Now I assigned a task to myself. And once you do that, let me see, make sure that I get the time. Once you assign a task to yourself or to someone else, when they log in, as I'm doing here, one of the first things that pops up is their task reminder. And I just wanted to show you that so you could get an idea. See, I set a task for myself. The title is my weekly I.T.I reminder. And that's I.T.I is the company that we use to send out that sends out our neutral letters. So I put in a task, and every week on a Monday, I set this task for Monday. It will come up just as you see it here and remind me to, handle that task. So that's what your people will see if you assign it to some of your, let's say, your reps or someone else that's working in your company. So I am here, Let's see if I go in here. I could go on and delete it, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave it be. One of the first, or one of the questions we had on Thursday, excuse me, last Monday, the 6th, the 3rd of June, is came from a gentleman named Godwin, and Godwin was asking, do you have to create a website to be linked to Investment Dominator to generate buyers traffic to the site? So he's basically saying, do we have to go out and create an entire website or news website if you want to be linked to Investment Dominator and to generate buyers traffic to the site? And the answer to that question is no, you don't need to create an entire website. It's a good question. It's the power of this CRM is the fact that if you have any records that are not in, let's see, not in pending preliminary research, but in complete ready to sell mode, or status, I should say. If the status is complete ready to sell, that means we actually want to market this particular record. We actually want to, this is one of the records we want to sell this parcel. So all you would do is go in and make sure your status is complete ready to sell. And if you wanted to edit that record, and again, come up here under options, I didn't have to come in here, but I can say, just say generate listing, and boom, that goes right to your selling site. And this particular information that you put in Investment Dominator, your the sale and any comments, and over here we have some additional verbiage that we put in along with your associated pictures. The website is actually developed for you, and this is the home page. So this will be the first page that the users come to. So this lets you know that you can actually develop your website as you're developing your different parcels that you're going to sell by just putting them in ready, complete ready to sell. And then of course you can go in here and you can modify any of the banners or any of the listings. You can decide which picture you want to have up first, and of course that's all controlled. You have one feature picture, but that's all controlled down here in your attached photos. And as you can see, we had this one picture listed as the featured picture. And by the way, you can only do one picture at a time. I mean, one featured picture at a time. The others, if you want them to display, have to be marked public. Okay, so let's keep that in mind for your listings. But basically, that's all you have to do. You don't have to create another separate website. And so I've got a question regarding this from Brian. It says, if you do create an external website or sites, do you just point it to the setup section? No, Brian, I'm afraid it's not quite that easy just to point it to that. That would probably involve Alex and company to get involved, some of our technical gurus, to help show you exactly how to take your data. Basically, you'd be integrating that website to Investment Dominator. And if you created a separate site, to actually integrate that into Investment Dominator, they do have a way of doing that, but it's just definitely much more involved. And you could be looking at response times issues when it comes to actually pulling the data. Data onto that actual site. So that's not something I've seen anyone do at this point, but I know that it can be done. Okay, so thanks, Brian, for asking that question, because there may be some others out there that are looking to have that done on their site. So this was number 3. Okay. All right, excellent. So next question we had was from Gene on last Monday. Gene was asking, I am able to use two subdomains, one for a buying site and one for a selling site. So I believe what we looked at what Gene is speaking of here. We have our buying site and we have our selling site. So we go into our buying site. Gene is referring to these domain names right here that are set up on both the buying site and the selling site, and said, okay, so I have one domain for the buying site and one for the selling site. Should I be using only one domain name? And so the answer to that is no. You should be using two separate domain names, one for the buying and a separate domain for the selling. You want to have it be a completely different domain. And at least in my opinion, what I've seen so far in using the Investment Dominator and in using the reason for that is because if you remember, we said we have two separate domains because you have two separate websites, but mainly you have two separate names because you're going to do two different markets of individuals. In the selling site, um, there's individuals who are looking to purchase land from you. Okay, so those would be your buyers, and they're going to go to your selling site, and you're going to be having all of these prices of all this nice land that you have there, and the prices are going to be rather elevated. And then when you look on the buying side, you've got your buying site. This is a completely separate, your buying is completely separate from your site where individuals are looking to buy from you. The buying site is individuals looking, they want to sell land to you, right? So they're trying to sell their land to you, and they become your sellers. So these are two complete markets of people, because obviously your sellers, if the business we're in, is to uh, you want to buy their land and you want to buy it very inexpensively. So um, really, you don't want your sellers of land that are going to sell land to you to actually go onto your buying site. Now, it has happened before, but it's a rare occasion. But you don't want your sellers going onto your buying site saying how much you're actually selling this land for. If they've got an acre they're selling to you, and you're paying $1,100 for their 1 acre, and then you see them selling another 1 acre in a similar area or in an area near where theirs is, and you might have it up for $15,000-$18,000. That's probably not something you want your sellers to see, if you know what I mean. So that's the reason for having your two separate domains. And we did cover that one other time, but I want to make sure everyone understands that rationale for having a buyer and a seller domain. And so next question that we had regarding this, which is around the same area. So do you need a domain name from GoDaddy? And Godwin, in my opinion, now, GoDaddy is one of the best providers of domain names. I would say yes, you need to get your domain name from just when it comes to their customer service. Let's see, do we need GoDaddy? Just their customer service, in my opinion, is excellent. And they're very helpful in helping you get set up. The other, I feel like they're also very competitive in the market in terms of their pricing. So that's another reason why I would use GoDaddy. And as well as the fact that they will help you very quickly to get your domain name up. They will also help you when it comes to securing if you want to secure your site, which means you want to, up top here where I have my HTTPS, this is a secured domain. So GoDaddy helps you in that regard as well, set up a secured domain. And understand now, if you, and this is something you pay for, you pay a little extra. It's not really that expensive, but you do pay a little extra. But don't worry about it if you don't have it right away. We did business for a long time, um, and there there are some other. Thank you, Brian. There are some other individuals or companies out there like GoDaddy. I think Brian is showing one is ua.siteground.com, and there are different providers for these domains that you can use, and some of them, may be more or less expensive. Brian says this one's great as well. So that's always good. It's good to shop around. I do the same thing. We just happened to already we had a land business, excuse me, not a land business, but a house flipping business before we got into the land business, and we were trying to flip houses. Now, of course, if you remember anything about my story, uh, my wife and I tried that for too long, and it didn't work. So we, ended up seeing Jack back in September of 2017, and we immediately got involved with him. So I'm only pointing that out to say that we were trying to do houses, and the market wasn't working out. So we came over and we started doing land, and um, we had already set up our domain, originally our domain with GoDaddy. And so then we did look around, and we looked at a few other providers and just felt that GoDaddy was still, the best one for us, and especially since we already had some business with them. So it's totally up to you. We're not trying to sway you one way or the other. I'm just sharing with you what we used, and you're more than welcome. Maybe Brian's company here, ua.siteground.com, is one you might want to check out. Okay, and thank you, Brian, for sharing that. We really appreciate that. So let's see. So we had a question. We have some questions that came in as well, not only through our class last Monday, but we also had we have some questions that come in via ticket that you all are putting in. So one was a question: what is I.T.I? And I.T.I is basically our what you call letternet printing.net, which is if we go up here to your help, and this happens to be a company that we use, is I.T.I, or letternet printing, and they send out all of our neutral letters to our prospective sellers. So if you were to come into your user guide, how to set up a direct mail campaign. Just I'm not going to go through all of the steps, but that's how you can actually bring up an article that will give you some insight. And even Alex created a little video how to set up a direct mail campaign with letternetprinting.net. And my opinion, they're working very well for us, and that's because we basically have all of our data. We got our data from the county. We went through and we massaged the data in Excel. We put it in the format that Investment Dominator accepts, and we send it off each week to letternetprinting.net, and they send out our neutral letters each week. We target about 500 or so each week, so that we can keep a good number out there into the marketplace, and we're getting real good response, and we like their costs. So this will be, again, you can shop around if you want to, but this is what we have found, and as you can see, since Alex put up an entire video as well as an article, this is something that Jack Bosch and company does support as well, is if you choose to use I.T.I. So I.T.I. is really, if you hear I.T.I., they're really talking about letterprinting.net. And I, for the first time folks that are just getting into, letternet printing or are deciding whether or not they want to do that, I would just recommend that you call them, have a conversation with them on the phone. Now you can go online and you can set all of this pricing up if you like. And you can select all of the different customization features if you also like. I myself didn't, I wasn't that, didn't know that much about it when I first got into the business. I could go back now and I could set up my letter and set up all the different features, but I didn't know that much about it. So I had a conversation with him on the phone, and to me that was saved me a lot of dollars, and determined how I was going to do my getting my neutral letters out to them. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, Brian, but that's what I.T.I. is, and they will help you to get started there. Okay, so we have another question come in through the ticket system, and it was from Irene, a ticket that had a question: how to transfer a list to a mail house. So this is basically what we were just talking about. The mail house would be, direct mail or letternet printing. So how to transfer a list. And so I'd recommend that, actually, I just pretty much answered that question. How do you, set up an account with them? I would call them on the phone and they will, be very helpful in setting you up. And so the next question we got, which is right along with that, in that same vein, is Irene basically wants to send out about 250 records from a pool of like 700 records. And okay, how to send? Okay, 250 or 470. So she has a pool of like 470 records, excluding, and she wants to exclude a particular batch or certain section of the records, from what I understand the question. Now this is more of an Excel question, but we're going to go on and we're going to deal with it here. So she has 250 of her records, and I kind of made up a file just so that we could see a little demonstration of this here. And I'll bring it up. So now again, I'm just going to share with you how I would do it. This is only one way, and I know quite a bit about Excel, but I don't hold myself out as being any kind of an Excel guru. So you may have another way of handling doing the same thing that I'm going to do here. But let's just say I made up this record, and this column here has all of your states. And so from her question, she basically wants to send, she's got about 250 of these records here that are, Florida, and I've just got a few here. But she's asking, okay, she wants to send 250 of them, excluding, the Florida ones. So what I would suggest doing is the particular file that you're going to use, and this is an example of the file that I actually would send to I.T.I. or letternet printing. So what I would do, if I were Irene, I would come in here and I would shift. I'm just holding down the shift key, and I'm coming down, I'm highlighting all the records that I basically want to get rid of. All right, because she says she wants to exclude the Florida batch. Now all the rest of the ones that are of the 470, she wants to send in a file. So I would highlight all of those, and then I'm just going to say delete, right? And actually I'm deleting all of those records all the way across, and that leaves me with all of the other records that are not, the 470. And then of course I would come and I would save this as, maybe a file that says no Florida. And you notice it's a .csv file. So now that's how I would do it, and I would simply send this this file as one of the files, data files that I send to the I.T.I or the direct mailing house to print out those additional, I guess, 250, 350, 450, so 220 records. I would save it as a separate file and send that record or that particular file to the I.T.I. And if you remember, let's see, when we go up here under our generate documents and you highlight this question mark, there's 3 pieces of data that would need to go out to I.T.I. One would be your template, your letter template, which has all the fields that they will interpret, and it has your neutral letter. So that's a neutral letter template. Then you have your envelope template. These are the 3 pieces of information, and you have your .csv file. And remember, it's the .csv that's associated with your prospect neutral letter. Sometimes new people get this confused. It's your prospect neutral letter CSV, the CSV that's associated with that, and these other templates that go out. Okay, so hopefully that will answer Eileen's question, and I think Tim has a good question. I'm going to answer that since it's along the same vein as, let's say, I was just deleting. Okay, so I deleted these records. Now, if you notice here, Tim, there's a unique order ID. Now, this comes out of Investment Dominator, and Investment Dominator assigns this unique order ID, or a unique number for each record. And so Tim's question is, how do you manage? Let's see, I'm gonna write down all of these. How basically do you manage deleting files, deleting files from how do you manage the status in the Investment Dominator? Okay, very good question. So Tim, as we come in here and we generate the documents, right? Now, these are your prospect letters. So these are any letters. These are any letters that are in prospect status. So the letters that we are sending, or the records that we're sending, are prospect neutral letters. So the status, after we send this .csv file and we send our template and we send that off, we're going to come over here and we're going to do what we call a bulk update of records. So, and this has got to be part of your business process. Okay, and gotcha, Eileen. I know that's your question today. I was referring to, actually, I'm sorry, it was Irene, not Eileen. It was Irene that was asking that question. So I got your question, Eileen, but I'm talking about Irene. So if I said Eileen, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to confuse you. So anyway, Tim, if you can see, these records are your prospect neutral letters. And what you're going to do at the end, once you send these to LetterNet printing and they're ready to be sent out, you're going to come and you're going to do a bulk update. And this bulk update, you see, is going to change the status from prospect to mailed letter 1. And this is a very important step to do. So, and this is also something that a lot of our new students, they forget about this bulk update over here, and they send these out. Now, it's a good thing that Investment Dominator, even if you try to come in and send these records again or produce these records again, Investment Dominator already knows, remember, that we have this unique order number over here in column A, that it's just going to show up as a duplicate. If you try to bring those into Investment Dominator again, Investment Dominator is going to catch all your duplicates, and it simply won't allow them to go into this CSV file. So basically, if you tried to input them again, they would, Investment Dominator would recognize, oh, I've already dealt with that record number, and it would just bypass it. So it wouldn't double your imported records. But at the end of your process, you always want to hit this bulk update records so that it moves it from prospect to mail letter 1, and that will handle the status each time. Okay, very important step because that's what people forget to do right at the end. Okay, so I'm getting quite a few questions here around this importing deal. I'm going to make sure I completed my questions from Tuesday. Okay. Pretty much we have some other questions that came in. So Brian was asking the question, make sure. So you are only bringing in records in Investment Dominator that you plan to turn around and send out to LetterNet printing. That is a correct statement, Brian, if I'm understanding. Let's see. You are, just in case you wonder what I'm doing, I'm making sure I write down all of your questions so I get kind of a timestamp too, so I can, when this is created again, this video of this particular webinar is created, I have the exact times of when you asked the question. So Brian said, so you're only bringing in the records in Dominator that you plan to turn around and send out to LetterNet printing. And that is correct. What I would have done first, if I'd been in this whole process, I would have come in and done an import, my entire process, and rather than having a file, this is the output from Investment Dominator because it has this unique identifier. But if I were, let's see if I can find one here. Yes, if I were importing a record or a file into Investment Dominator that I want Investment Dominator to handle for me so that it gets my CS.csv ready to go out to LetterNet printing, I would have it in this format: type, first name, last name. This is an example of an import record. And as you can see, I have these particular, in this column 1, these would have to be the columns: type, first name, last name, company, address. You know, I'm sure you've gone through how to import, but I'm just going through this real quickly again. This is how you import. So these are the records that I would be sending or bringing into Investment Dominator through this import my land list. I would do a choose file, and then of course, you know, choose the file that I'm going to bring in. And that, those records coming in, when I do my upload list, they're going to come into Investment Dominator as, let me go back here, as prospects. So these will be all my prospects that will come into Investment Dominator. And then, of course, when I generate documents, all of those that were imported end up in my .csv file. That is one of the files that I send. Besides this printing, this neutral letter template, and this envelope, I send my .csv. And what Investment Dominator does, which is just, I mean, I just think it's just really, really cool the way it works. It outputs a file like this with unique identifiers for each record. And that's basically how we handle bringing those in and assigning them their right numbers and then having them processed within Investment Dominator. And Investment Dominator keeps track of all of these record IDs so that it doesn't duplicate. You don't end up having additional records come in on like your next import with the same order ID, and you end up duplicating your data going to LetterNet printing. And that's what's one of the cool things about the Investment Dominator. So, okay. So, Tim has another good question. He says, but you deleted a bunch of rows. Yes, I deleted a bunch of rows from Excel sheet. Do you have to manually and correct them not using the bulk update? No, not at all. If you remember, the reason for me deleting those records was because I think it was Irene that said that she didn't want her Florida batch going into the Investment Dominator. For some reason, she didn't want to deal with the Florida records. So I deleted those records and I named this I have another file, which is called No Florida, right? But I still have my original file that has, my Florida records in it. And so I'm only sending in, she's only importing, that's her business reason for wanting to, handle, get all of the Florida records out of there and have only the records that are non-Florida be sent. So I don't know what her reason for that is, but that's just basically how we do it. So when you correct them, you're not using the update. You don't have to correct them. Based on what you want to do with your records. I mean, that's your business. So if you want to go back and get those Florida records, they're in another file that has all the records there. So I don't know if you saw me change the name of my actual file. I saved it as a different name, and that's the name I would send to LetterNet printing for processing. Good question, people. Good questions. Good questions. Okay, another question. I tell you, you guys are hot today. Questions from, let's see, explain the difference between, the bulk update. And this is a question that we've had coming in quite often. This is a question we've had coming in regarding the bulk level transactions. So I need to explain the difference. And this might be elementary for some of you, but there's some newer folks on the line that this will hopefully give some understanding. And for some reason, we've had quite a bit of misunderstanding on this particular subject, and we might have to do some more tutorials to explain the difference here. But what individuals are being confused about, you see, you have a generate documents here at this lower level, which again, that has to do with any records that you actually select here. All right. And let's see, bulk level. And then we have a generate documents up here at your bulk level. And just so you know, for a little background, when Investment Dominator was first created, Jack and company, all they did, they had these bulk level commands up top. There weren't these lower level commands here dealing only with the records in your land records individually. So just so you understand, when you're dealing with these records up top here, or any of these selections, any of these functions up top, that has to do with records you're going to do on a bulk level. Those are records that you're going to process based on a status. So all of these up top deal with your status, a record being in a particular status, whether it's prospect, whether it's mail letter one, etc. But later on, as you know, Investment Dominator was rolled out to different individuals, and as more people started to use it, and even Jack's wife, as she started to use it, she had a need for being able to select a certain number of records or certain type of records. Let's say her prospects, and these are the only ones, you know, that she wants to create a neutral letter for. These are your prospects. So rather than to come in here and use the bulk level, that means that that would incorporate all of her prospects, right? Rather than to do that, Alex and company put in a lower level generate documents for just these selected records that a user may want to select. So it's for a limited number. So all of these records here, or excuse me, all of these functions at this level are for records that you select by putting a check mark. So remember, nothing's going to happen at this lower level until you select records using your check mark. And so then if you generate documents at this level, all right, those are the only prospects you're going to see. I think just to make it real easy for you to see what I'm doing, I'm only going to select three records: Donna, Richard, and Phyllis. And I'm going to generate my documents. Those are prospects. So if I come in here and I look at my PDF that gets generated, which is my neutral letter, you're only going to see three of these prospects going to Phyllis, going to Donna. That's it. Those three records. So I'm just pointing this out to you so that you understand the difference in these what we call bulk level records. Now, if I were to do generate documents at that bulk level, and I come in here and I look at my PDF, it's going to include any records at all. Oh, that's the envelope. I want to see my letters. That's the envelope. Okay, what's happening here? Let me go back. Okay, none of these. These are all prospects. So I come in and I do my generate documents. My CS.csv, if I look at that I would send, you know, here, that's going to have all of my prospects that I currently have that's going to LetterNet printing, and LetterNet and the Investment Dominator actually assigns the Investment Dominator assigns a unique number to each of these prospect records that are going to go out. Okay, and let's see. So here are all of my letters on every prospect record. because that's at the prospect level. So as you can see, I had many more prospect records. I think I had, I don't know, I have several. So that's the difference in these bulk level commands up here versus your individual ones where you must select a record here at this level. So we had the question, you get a generate CSV. Okay, Brian, I'm not sure. Not sure I'm getting all of your question. Let's see. Oh, it said, but do you get a generate CSV at that level, at the lower level? Oh, when you generate documents from where you select records and you come in to generate documents, it's not creating a .csv file for you because, again, that's not going to letternet printing. See, the whole reason for this particular lower level command is there was a need for people to say, oh, okay, for whatever reason, they've, on my bulk level, when I sent all my records to letternet printing, I forgot about sending, one to Donna, Richard, and Phyllis. So they might have been in a different status. They might have been, for whatever reason, they weren't in prospect status. I don't know what the reason, they might have missed them. So, or, somehow they got a call and they found out that Richard didn't get his letter or Phyllis didn't get her letter. And they just want to come in and generate letters at this lower level. They just want to get a couple of letters out. So that's why they put this in where you can document, you can actually create that just for a few people. And that's the reason why they put in this feature that you could select specific letters that you want to generate right there on the spot. So let's see. So Brian says, okay, so the workflow looks like you only bring into the Dominator the records you plan to process right away. That is correct, Brian. That is correct. So you only bring into records you plan to process right away. That is correct. The only records that I import into Investment Dominator, I go back here to my land deals. The only records where I come up here and I'll do this import, and then I will choose my file. I'll upload my list into Investment Dominator. It ends up back over here as prospects. I do that once a week. So yes, thank you, Eileen. That's very kind of you. Yes, I don't think you're screaming at me. I can handle it. I've been screamed at by lots of people. It's perfectly okay. In any case, I was saying the only records I bring into the Investment Dominator are, and put them in the prospect statics once a week, are the records that I plan to send out, in this .csv file that gets created, that I plan to send out to letterprinting.net, that along with my template, my neutral letter template, and my envelope template. And I do that once a week. And then immediately at the end of my process, immediately, I'll do this bulk update records. That's the last step I do after I get done sending my records out to letternet printing, so that I move those to mail letter one. It just saves you a lot of headaches. So you got to put that in your process. And And once those records are gone to LetterNet printing from the .csv, and I've sent them my templates, I bulk update, they're in mail letter 1, and then if I come back into my land records, I won't see any in prospect status. All of those records will then be in, they'll be in the mail letter 1 status. But what Eileen is saying is correct. You can do the same thing for your records that are in pending preliminary research. And this is where this feature actually comes into, that is actually very helpful for you here. Boy, I tell you, our time is really going. Is it works the same for your pending preliminary research records. Let's see, and that was, this time it was Eileen. I got to get the right name. So that's where this comes in handy, because so many times I've gotten a call from one of the owners, and they'll say, well, hey, I got your letter a long time ago, so I'd sent them an offer on their property, and but I can't find it. Or I got your letter, and it's saying that I need, that I'm expiring, my time to expire on this particular record is, yesterday. So I want to do business with you. So I need you to, send me another one, or, somehow get me another one so I can sign it and get it back to you. And this is where this comes into handy. I'll put that person's name in pending preliminary research, come in here and select it. Then I come over here at this level because I selected a record. I'm going to generate documents, and here is the offer that gets generated for that person. And this one didn't get generated only because, I'll show you. Let's see. Let's try this one here and this next one, because it has an actual market value. Very important, it has a market value. So I'll generate the documents, come into offers, and here's my letter. And so mainly what they're concerned about is the fact that this has told them that it's, their closing date is of such, and that they have until this particular time, at 5 p.m. So this will say this expires on 6/21. If it might be, today's the 10th, so they might have gotten a letter and it might have expired on Friday, this past Friday, and they want another letter. So that's where this feature really comes in handy, is I can generate just them another letter. And I tell you, we use that, feature, quite a bit in our particular business. So I want you to hopefully, that will help. Wow, I tell you, we got a few more questions coming in here. Very good today. I appreciate you guys asking the questions. Let's see. Real quick, I'll see if I can get this, and I might be able to get one of these questions in from the time that we have left. General question, how to organize files, okay, pending preliminary offer request by county and zip in Investment Dominator. Well, if I had that kind of situation where I wanted to organize or bring in all of my records in pending preliminary research, and let's say I wanted county Maricopa, but I want only those that are in Maricopa that are in pending preliminary research. So this is one of those situations where, people want offers, and I'm only going to pull the ones that are in pending preliminary and that are in Maricopa. I would do an advanced search, and I can show you this real quick here. Let's see. Boy, I tell you, we're at 55 minutes already. How to organize. Very good questions today, people. I'm really happy you guys got so many questions coming in. If I didn't get your question today, I will get it answered by Thursday, and we will be back here Thursday, 12 noon. If you missed that broadcast, remember these are recorded, so it will should be online for you to look at hopefully by Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, the Thursday's call, and it'll have your question in there. So I'm going to look for status equal to pending preliminary research. Remember, we want all of pending preliminary research, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add a rule, and I want let's say the county to be equal to Maricopa. Hope I spell that right. So I would do something like this. I would do what we call an advanced search. So my first field equal to pending preliminary, and then I added the rule county equal to Maricopa. And I'm going to do that search, and it's going to bring up, as you can see, two records, Maricopa and pending preliminary research. So that's the way that me personally, that's the way I pull a lot of records is I do advanced searches and determine either if I want it by a particular owner, or if I want it by county, or if I want it by zip is a little too specific in my opinion. I mean, if you're only looking for one record or one or two records, but you could have several records in the same zip code area, so that would be fine. But anyway, that's how I would handle that one for selecting certain records. Now, so I'm going to have to get to the last question on that one. I think it was Morris that was asking, what's the best way to methodically work down offer request? I'm going to have to capture that one on Thursday, but I promise you I will get to that question. And thank you all for joining us, and I'm hoping that oh, thank you, Eileen. I really appreciate that. That's so nice. I tell you, I think you all are some great people, and I really, really appreciate being on with you. I appreciate the questions. It really throws me into the Investment Dominator, and I get a chance to really dig in and pull out some nuggets in this great CRM. So thank you again for being on. And as I leave with you a thought for today, I'm going to be off maybe a minute early. Y'all can get poised for the big game coming on. But for many of you out there that, if you have family members that, or friends that look at you a little funny about when you say that you're, flipping land, quote that comes, don't be distracted by criticism of others. Remember, the only taste of success some people get is to take a bite out of you. All right. That is from Zig Ziglar. So go out there. Don't let them chew on you too much. Just remember, you're probably the only taste of success they're going to really get. Thank you, folks. Have a great evening, and we'll look forward to seeing you on Thursday. Thank you much. Take care now. Wow.